Hello and welcome to the grade 8 review material first video lesson. This is on fraction and related operations. This is the first video in a 4-part video series that quickly covers the essential required knowledge from your grade 8 course. So what I want you to be able to do after this video today, I want you to be able to convert fractions from improper to mixed and vice versa, convert fractions to percent, and successfully apply various operations using fractions. So mixed versus improper fractions is a quick review. Your mixed fraction would look something like that, 2 2/3, and the equivalent in an improper fraction would be 8/3. All right, so improper, the numerator is greater than denominator. And in a mixed, we have an integer, so a whole value, integer with a fraction. Now, in the grade 9 course, to be quite honest, the skill is not greatly required because we work with improper fractions 90% of the time. If you're going and looking at doing some drafting tech courses, then the mixed fractions are very important. But for academic stream and university stream math, we pretty much want everything in the improper fraction. It's a little bit handier, and you'll see why when we get into some of the later units. So the first thing we want to talk about is converting between mixed and improper. So if we go from, take the example above, 2 2/3, what I basically have here is a pi, and I have 2 whole pies as indicated, and I have 2/3 of another pi. So that means my pi was split into 3 components, which means all the pies were split into 3 components, and I have 2 whole, so all of they're all colored in. So when I want to figure out how many, or switch it to improper, I go through and I realize that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces of pie out of possible 3 pies, so 8/3. All right. Now mathematically, because that way you're not going to do it pictorially all the time. The other way, and we'll go or the 2 2/3. I know that 2, so I'll put down here my thinking in a bubble. So that 2, if every pi had 3 pieces, that means I have 6/3. So I'm finding an equivalent fraction. So that 2 is really 6/3. All right, 6 divided by 3 is 2. And then add 2 more to the numerator, and I end up with the 8/3. All right, so you get that. Some of you will be taught the shortcut. 2 times 3 is 6, and then you add that numerator plus 2. Going the other direction, not very common for us. We usually, like I said, leave it in improper. But if we have something like 15/9, we figure out, maybe I'll pick a little bit bigger number. Let's go 25/9. We figure out, well, how many times will 9 divide into 25 evenly? So we do 9 times 1, 9 times 2 is 18, 9 times 3 is 27. So we only go up to 2 parts there. So how much is left over? Well, I know 9 times 2 is 18. So 9 times 2 is 18 pieces. So 25 minus the 18 would leave me with 7 pieces left over. So it would be 2 7/9. Okay, so we'd end up with 2 whole pieces of pie and 7/9. So you're just figuring out how many times will that denominator divide into the numerator for us evenly, and then you need to figure out what's left over. All right, again, that should be common knowledge, or common skill for us. Okay, moving along then. Reducing the lowest terms. If I go back to my 15/9, what are we essentially doing? We are looking for largest number that divides top and bottom. evenly. And bottom evenly. Okay, so when we're looking at the at 15 and 9, you're going to take the smaller number, take the 9, and what are the multiples of 9? Well, it divides by 1, 3, and 9. 15 divides by 1, 3, and 5. So the common there is 3. So I'm going to divide top and the bottom by 3 to get my new answer of 5/3. All right, so that's the long way. If you can do it the short, if you're quicker with it, but those are the steps. You're looking for a common multiple, not largest possible number that divides into both evenly. All right, adding and subtracting fractions. With adding and subtracting fractions, the key here, you must have the same denominator. Must have the same denominator. Okay, absolute must. So with adding and subtracting, you must have a common denominator. So the example, if we go 2/3 plus 4/7, I need to find a number that both 3 and 7 will multiply into evenly. So I'm going to do the extra steps to start with. So I go to a single bar on the other side because I know I'm going to just add the numerator once I figure out what the numerator is going to be. So 3 and 7, 3 times, so you go up by 3s, I guess. This is what you're doing mentally. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24. 7, go up by 7s, 14, 21. We found our matching number. So again, for those that are, this is the long way, of course. You don't have to show all these steps at this point in time. So the common denominator is 21. They both share a multiple of 21. So the 3, to make it a 21, I had to multiply by 7. Whatever you do the bottom, you got to do the top. So that means that it'll be 14 plus the 7, had to multiply it by 3. 4 times 3 is 12. And 14 and 12, that's 26 over 21. All right, so you have to get that common denominator first. Subtraction works the same way. So if we had 4/5 minus 2/9, let's say, so I need to find a common denominator. A lot of you will be taught just to multiply the bottom numbers together, which is fine. It's not always the most efficient, but it does work every single time. So 4 times, let's do it that way, 5 times 9 means my common denominator is 45. I had to multiply that by 9, so that has to be multiplied by 9. This was multiplied by 5 to get the 45. Whatever you do the bottom, you have to do the top. You end up with 36, take away 10. So 26 over 45 is our answer. Now finally, what happens if we are dealing with mixed fractions? So 2 1/5 plus 3 1/4. Really, there's a couple of ways you can do it. I find it just quicker to go to improper fractions first, to be quite honest. So we know we have two wholes, which would give me 10 over 5. So that first fraction would be 11 over 5, right? 2 times the 5 is 10, and 1 more is 11. Plus 3 times 4 is 12, so that's 13 over 4. Now I'm going to get a common denominator. That it would be 4 times 5 would be 20. In order to get that 20, I'd have to multiply that by 4. Whatever you do to the bottom, do to the top. Multiply by 5, top and bottom. So we'd end up with 44 plus 13 times 5, 65. So 109 over 20 would be the final answer. So when you get into adding and subtracting the fractions with mixed numbers, it gives you more practice on converting between proper in improper. And again, I'm going through this quickly because this should be known material. This is not new concepts for the grade 9 course. You'll have an opportunity to practice some of these questions and get some one-on-one help during class time. Final topic is multiplying, dividing fractions. I find these the easy ones. So with multiplying, you multiply numerator with numerator, and denominator with denominator, and denominator with denominator. So it ends up looking like this. 2/3 times 4/5. You simply just multiply across the top, multiply across the bottom, and we end up with 8/15. If you are working with the, again, mixed fractions, again, I would recommend switching to improper first. It's a lot less headaches. So you'd have your 7/3 times 13/4. 3 times 4 is 12. So multiply our denominator, multiply our numerator. We get 191/12. Okay, so there's your multiplying fractions review. And finally, dividing. Multiply by reciprocal of second fraction. All right, so multiply by reciprocal of second fraction. Now, the terminology might be new, but this is the expectation as we move into the grade 9 academic course. There is a, that first word's diving, not dividing. Let's change that, spell it properly. There's a higher expectation of proper terminology and methodology as well. So now if we go 2/3 divided by 4/5, my expectation, or what I want to see when you write out your answer, is that's really 2/3 times 5/4. You flip the fraction, physically write the multiplication sign. There's no shortcut here in the grade 9 course. Let me change that. I need to see that step. I don't want to see any of this arrow crap of cross multiplying because that's garbage and it's not correct. This is what I want to see. So if you do not do this currently, this is the new process you must use if you are looking for full marks. Now we just use our multiplication rule from above. We end up with 10/12, which will reduce down to 5/6. Same thing with that mixed fraction. If you come across them, and we don't really come across this very often because, like I said, for the most part, I am working with, or prefer to be working with, improper fractions. So these are the steps I must see. So 7/3 times 4/13. Multiply across the top now. We never divide fractions. We always multiply by reciprocals. 28/39. Okay? And that gives you a summary of the first review package and what you're working through. Some people are going to rattle through this pretty quick. A couple of things I want you to keep in mind when you're going through and doing the homework. When you take a note from the video, I am demonstrating proper mathematical form. So the key here, one of the things I want to point out, is that one equal sign per line. I don't want to see equals 26/45 because that will deduct your communication mark, which is part of your overall mark. One equal sign per line. So every time you use an equal sign, it should be on a fresh line, an absolute must. You see it here demonstrated. This is the form I am looking for. So be very conscious that what I'm doing on the video is the expectation of the format that will be the same for you all the way through up to grade 12. All right. If you have any questions with a specific area, this is the time you get one-on-one help. The rest of you move ahead at a pace that you feel comfortable. Good luck.